Hello my friends, and welcome back to Learning Torah Lishma. Today I want to talk about the difference between the mind and the heart, right? There is intellectually the way someone goes about something, and then there's emotionally the way someone goes about something. In a person, there are these two factors: the emotional, and the mindful. So a person has to first recognize, if he's trying to understand himself or herself, first you have to recognize that these two aspects exist. Now, a person needs to understand, how does that affect me on a day-to-day basis? Because understanding how these things work will give a person the ability to, instead of be control, to take control. So, if someone tries to attack them through using emotion, which is usually the way people go, you'll know how to protect yourself because you understand that there are these two things and how it works. And in the more rare cases, but also if someone tries to attack you through your mind, you'll be able to deflect it. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. And I'm going to take it to the area of marriage. What a man and a woman are looking for when it comes to marriage, they have to understand, that there are people telling them things. And sometimes the people are coming at them from their emotion, from the emotion aspect. They're coming to trick you or get you to do what they want using emotion. And sometimes they're coming at you using the mind, the intelligence. And a person can feel now, if a person is trying to affect your mind or heart in a good way, then that they're not coming at you, they're trying to help you. That's different. But in life, we find many times that the person isn't trying to help, but they're actually trying to hurt. And sometimes, also very common, is the person who thinks they're trying to help, really inside it's really coming from a negative emotion, and they're really trying to hurt you, and they're tricking themselves. And other times, the person could really try to help, really want to help, but they're actually hurting you, either in your intelligence or your emotions, the mind and the heart. So, a person, when wanting to not hurt themselves and not allow other people to hurt you, it's not just one thing. It's not just the person's coming after you in intelligence or the person just coming after you in emotion. They're coming after you in both. And it's not just a person who really wants to do evil, or a person who's tricking himself and thinks he doesn't want to do evil, or a person who truly wants to do good but is doing evil. All of them, meaning you have all of these. There's nothing excluded. All types are coming after you. The Satan is smart, the Satan is smart, he has a lot of henchmen, and he is trying to get you any way he can. Directly, indirectly, half directly, without you realizing, he's coming after you. And he uses people. He uses the imperfections of people to come after you. And a person doesn't realize it. It could be easily that a person is a good person, but what they're trying to do to you is the Satan using them, is the Satan using them, and they don't realize. Is evil uses them. He uses good people, he uses bad people, but just as easily uses good people as well. He finds the imperfections and uses that to harm other people. And therefore a person has to learn to be vigilant and honest with himself and understand, this is my area of expertise. As much covet and honor people give me, I have to stick within my area of expertise. Just because I know this, I should not be arrogant. I shouldn't be full of gaiva and think I know that as well. And of course, you should also work in becoming experts in more areas. You understand? Absolutely. This is extremely important for life. Now, getting back. So a single person, he's looking to get married, and he has to understand that there's a list of things that are important. There's a list of the mind from what's most important to what's second in importance and third, and each one makes up the importance of the mind. And the same is true with the heart, with the emotions, that there's a list of importance. If you're a man, there's one list. If you're a woman, there's a different list. There's a list of importance. And that list, there's the most important on that list, the second, the third, and altogether that creates the importance of the heart, of the emotion. And a person needs to recognize this. A woman needs to be honest. What's the first 5 or first 3 important things when it comes to my intelligence, and what's the 3 or 5 most important things when it comes to my emotions? Now, when a person is doing that, whether they're a man or a female, they're a male or a female, when they're doing that, they have to also understand that for most people, the emotions, the heart, is stronger. And even though the intelligence is saying that this should be more important, but at the end of the day, the emotions are more powerful. And if it's saying, if its first thing is something, then you have to realize that you have to recognize and appreciate the fact that your emotions are stronger, and therefore take the emotions seriously. And not just say, well, my intelligence says something else. This we're all talking about, meaning, this, I'm using this example of marriage because we're not talking about, gruesome examples, but this unfortunately is true in everything. And that's why societies have to have punishment. You have to have an einish if you do something wrong, because at the end of the day, the person's emotions would overpower them. And therefore, if you kill someone, you get killed, you get locked up, and that prevents someone's emotions taking control. When you don't have that, that's when everything turns into chaos. That's why it's so important to have good judges. When a land, when a state, when a country has good judges, it creates good people. People learn how to take control of themselves. Without it, it's very difficult to learn how to control and contain and use the power of your emotions and the power of your intelligence in the correct way. Because it's all so open, it's all so free. Too many things are moving and the negative and the emotions are more powerful, that makes a society go into chaos. So if a person is thinking, let's say, where should I live? Where should I go to? It should be a place that has very good judgment, good judges. That's the city, that's the state you should go to. And don't ruin that state. That is extremely important for yourself, for your spouse, for your kids. Extremely important. Okay, now, getting back to marriage. A person needs to appreciate that even for a man, again, in most cases, and on average, the high percent, the overwhelming majority is, even for men, the heart is stronger than the intelligence. And a woman needs to know that even though she's so much heart, there's also intelligence that is there. And that also plays a role. And we need to appreciate both aspects, whether we're a male or a female. We need to appreciate both aspects. And when we're going into something serious in life, like marriage, we really should try to figure out the first 3, the first 5 on each of those sides for each individual. So a man has to figure out the first 3, 5 when it comes to the mind, to intelligence, and then he has to figure out the first 3 or 5 when it comes to the heart, to the emotion. And the woman needs to figure out the first 3 or 5 when it comes to the intelligence, and the first 3 or 5 when it comes to the emotion. This is very important. Now, really we could stop here, but I do want to get into it a bit. It's probably safer to stop here, because people can get offended so quickly. But respectfully, if you're someone that gets offended very quickly, I'm not probably the best person to listen to. Because I'm going to say the truth. I'll try to say it the nicest way possible. Not always do I succeed. But I'm going to say the truth whether a person, gets offended or doesn't, or, really doesn't like it. Because my goal is for people that really searching the truth. That's my goal, to help those people. Everybody needs someone to help them. There's a person like this, he needs that type of person to help them. My purpose is to help people that want to maximize their ability, their potential, their purpose on this world. That's part of my purpose, is to help that specific group. So that's who I'm speaking to. Now, it doesn't mean that you could just now go and say, since I'm just saying the truth, I don't have to think twice. Maybe I could say it in a nicer way. No, of course, try to say it in a nicer way. Sometimes there is a certain purpose to say something in a strong way. You understand? These are all calculations that a person needs to make. But in general, you need to say the truth, but you're trying to say it in the nicest way possible. You understand? Women happen to be very good at this. If they need to say something, they're very good at saying it in the, nicest way possible. Men seem to have a little harder time at this. They're more just like straightforward. But we try. Again, we like to, if we're talking about something, usually we would like to talk about the man first, because I'm a man, so for me to first start talking about a woman, which I might get it wrong, that doesn't, but at least if I'm talking about a man and I'm a man, that makes, that makes more sense. So let's talk about the first thing. in each one of this. There's intelligence and there's emotion. But let's swap it around. Let's face reality. Emotion and intelligence. Now, one of the big missions in a person's life is that his intelligence should take control over the emotion. Not that you get rid of your emotions, but it should reign. That is a mission in life. Not, we try to do our best. It's probably, I don't know, maybe when we're very old we can actually do that. But practically, when it's not doing something wrong, when it's just, let's say, getting married, you're not doing something wrong, we have to face reality that your emotions are going to be stronger. That's reality. Your heart is going to be stronger. And just to say, well, intelligence reigns even when it comes to marriage over your heart. You could fake that, but the reality is you'll probably never reach that when it comes to this area. Yes, when it comes to being angry and, God forbid, killing someone, most people, their intelligence will reign even though their heart, their emotions are saying something else. Yes, that's called being an adult. You learn to control your emotions. Yes. But when it's an area of heter, of openness, there's no right or left. There, that it should also reign, is very, very difficult. You understand? So let's go to the case that we mentioned before about someone feeling he's so angry he wants to, God forbid, kill someone. But his intelligence is saying that's wrong. So now what he's going to do is he's not going to kill the person, but since he feels that that person is not safe for his family or himself, he's going to completely disconnect him. You understand? Now you see, he's not going to allow the person near their kids, tell the kids not to be around them. The chule act. You understand? That's how you see how the intelligence and the emotion is working together. But because the intelligence is stronger, you're coming out with a more balanced and a better outcome as opposed to killing someone. You understand? Now, when it comes to marriage, it should also be this. It should work like that also. And you would marry someone that would have a less chance of getting divorced, and who knows what's happening from there. You understand? All hell breaks loose from there. It's true, but the reality is that the heart, since that area you're not doing something evil, the heart reigns. Even a person could be a real adult and the heart in that area is still stronger. That's the reality. And it's probably not going to go away anytime soon, if ever. You understand? Maybe when you're 90, you understand? I don't know, but maybe. I don't remember I haven't reached that age, and I don't remember my previous life, so I don't know. You understand? But maybe when you're really old, then things, then even in something like that, your mind is on top as opposed to the heart being on top. Could be. You understand? But we hope that people are getting married when they're young, not when they're older or old. You understand? So, and again, we don't even know if that happens when you're older. You understand? So, a person has to face reality. There's something that we strive for, but at the same time, we also have to face reality. Now, the reality for a man is that when it comes to the emotion, the first thing that the highest level thing when you're talking about emotion is the woman's beauty. And when you're talking about intelligence, that aspect, the most important thing is that she's full of emotion and love, and that she's a good person. When it comes to intelligence, now, in life you could find a woman that has that first level when it comes to intelligence, but is not favorable emotion-wise. And vice versa, you can have a woman that is favorable emotion-wise, she looks good, but she's pretty nasty to be around. You don't really want to spend time with her. She's always fighting, contradicting you, arguing with you, thinking that you're superior. She's always trying to strive above you in your areas as a man. You understand? If a man is trying to dominate a woman in her expertise, that's an issue in a marriage. And if the woman is trying to dominate a man in his expertise, there's certain things that are very specific to a man, certain things are very specific to a woman. And when they intercede with each other, when one thinks that something that has to do with the man, she has to be better, or that she thinks she's better and the other one is not, this is a big issue in marriage, right? And it could be vice versa. This is the issue. You know, the woman could say, well, the house looks prettier this way, and he just says, you don't know what you're talking about. That's an issue, because she understands that much better. Naturally, that is part of the expertise as a woman. You understand? So, when we face reality that in this issue, whether you like it or not, the emotion reigns over the intelligence. So the man now looks at it. He needs a pretty wife. That's number one. Number two, a good emotional woman. Someone that's good, that's kind. That's here, but that's here. You understand? You have to understand, just because we say something is not number one and it's number 2 or 3 doesn't mean that it's not important. It's extremely important. That's why it's number 2. You understand? So it's here. So now the connection happens like this. As opposed to like this, it's happening like this. You understand? So now the connection's happening like this. What comes out of that? What comes out of that is that if you wanted to maximize the potential of a marriage happening, the first thing you would say to him is that she's gorgeous. The second thing would be she's gorgeous and kind. That would be the second thing. She's gorgeous and kind. You understand what's happening here? That's how you would, those would be the first words you would utter when referring to her. The person might first ask, what about her age? What about this, that? That's something underneath. That's something underneath. That's probably the third thing for a man, the age of the woman. You understand? But you could say, I'm going to answer that, but just let me please go at my pace. She's gorgeous and kind. You know, and if she's younger than the man, then you could also say she's younger than you. And if she's not, then, you know, you figure out how to say that. You understand? She's gorgeous and kind. She might be 1 or 2 years older than you, but she's gorgeous and kind. First say she's gorgeous and kind. She might be one or 2 years older than you, but she's gorgeous and kind. You go back to that. You understand? So, and it's, women in general, and widim shatchanim, that they're sort of, not a real shotgun. Because real shotgun understands the differences between a man and a woman. You understand the male and female. So if you don't understand the differences, then, you could be a shotgun physically or shotchanit. You could do that. You could be a matchmaker, but you're fake. Respectfully. Well, we're just saying the truth. That's a fake. Now, someone who's evil, which I've seen, if they know the woman is really not, they know that she's going to have a very hard time being married because she's not so nice. She doesn't have that warmth, that love, the kindness. Then they'll just over-focus, and she happens to be really beautiful, they'll just over-focus on the beauty and get you to marry that woman. And this, you understand? And they could succeed. Why? Because that's really higher. Now, if it was the opposite, that she's really kind and thoughtful, nurturing, she's really that. But she, the average, the majority of men, there's something that we call beautiful. Now, there could be a minority that something else to them is beautiful, but we're talking about the majority. To the majority of men, that is not considered beautiful. And now you try to trick him by talking about how good of a person she is. Only a loser will fall for that. Because this is not on top. It's this way. You understand? I'm thinking we should go to a woman. The psychology of a woman. We know what's most important to her, right? Who knows? At least we got what a man, for a man. At least, I'm a man, I have tons of men friends, at least that, I guess we need a woman, that also has this similar mission to me, like mine's, and could talk about it from the female perspective. But a woman has, this also, and how that plays out. I guess we might have to make another share, because I think I'm going to have to investigate this to really understand what is the number one for a woman when it comes to emotion, and what is the number one for a woman when it comes to intelligence. I'm going to have to think about this. We have to make another share on this, because a lot of things come into my mind, but the question is, what's number one? In general, you have to understand, whenever we're talking about the majority. You understand? There's always this minority that it's something else. You understand? But talking about majority. Okay. So this is that. Okay. Now, we start to understand that there's a makeup, there's a DNA, there's a spiritual DNA of a person. And there's something called the majority, the healthy majority. And theoretically, could you have elites that mess up people so much that the majority now is saying things that a majority of old would not say? Absolutely. Could you have now the majority thinking that evil is good and good is evil? Absolutely. It could happen. Would God allow it? I don't know. But physically, could it happen? Yes. However, it's unlikely. It's unlikely. Usually the majority, not the majority on Twitter, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about majority of people. You'll usually see that the truth comes out. It could be a big minority that's selling falsehood, and they get free money and they could spend endless times, going on the street and looting and screaming at cops, and just do nothing because they get free money, hundreds and hundreds of dollars a day. Absolutely. But that's the loud minority. That's not the majority. This is the difference. This is the difference. Now I want to go into something that's a bit tedious. And that is, in the topic of marriage, that today there's a big push, certainly in the secular community, and unfortunately even in the religious community, whether we're talking about Jews or people that are not Jewish, Gentiles, people from other religions, whatever it may be. There's this ideology today. I don't know if it's which country is having these, but certainly in America and other places like it, there's this push to make men be attracted to women who look and are clearly older than them. On a lower level, a woman who is older but has good looks, or is just older, you understand? There's this push to force men not to take serious this aspect inside of them that wants a younger, beautiful woman. And there is this push on women trying to cause them to think that they do not have any inherent value, and their inherent value is showing that they're better than a man. And that's incorrect, because women have special abilities that naturally women have, and they're experts when it comes to that. And men have special abilities that naturally they're experts at that. And together we make a safe world. We make a safe city, state, and country. But they make them, women think, you say, what's special about a woman? Forget about the question, what is a woman? What is special about a woman? Now, the first question is also very important. But let's go to the second question. What is special about a woman? All she could think is me being better than a man. She doesn't know what is special about a woman, right? The love she brings into the world, the calmness she brings, the nurturing, all these amazing abilities, the ability that she could give birth. Imagine they're cutting off her pearls, cutting out her womb. This is what's happening today. Why do they want women to do that? Why do they care so much? Because they want to show, by having women, tricking them into thinking that that's good for them, that that's healthy for them, that that's psychologically good for them. It makes a woman who is straight think that that's not important, that I could give birth to a child. She doesn't think that that's important because she sees women ripping them out of themselves. So she just thinks, okay, it's something that I have, but it's not important. And really, the whole world stands on a woman. If there isn't children, then mankind dies out. You understand? It's one of the pillars of society. And a government should do everything to protect that. Not allow crazy people to come in, Satanists to come in and destroy it. Because of this, I want to say something that I want to say a truth. It might not be an easy truth to certain people, but I want to say a truth. That when a person is a matchmaker, like what we discussed, a real matchmaker who really understands the differences and doesn't use resume, coffee dates, as we discussed, we have shiurim on this. We have Jewish classes on this. So I'm talking now to a person, whether they're a Jew or not a Jew, or some other religion, whatever it is, talking to everybody. It's not only doing that, but you also have to touch around and see where they are hurt. A woman comes to you and she's looking for, and she's right, she wants to live a religious life. She's not a person that wants to cut out her womb, cut off her pearls. She's not that. You understand? So you're like, great. You know, she wants to get married to a man and live happily ever after. Happily ever after doesn't mean that there aren't challenges, but it does mean that they love each other, they treat each other kindly, and that they're loyal to each other. It does mean that, and that's what she wants. So you think that that's it. Let's go ahead. You have to also search and ask her. Again, this might not be the first thing you ask her, but this has to be part of the conversation, either the first or second. You know, when you're deciding to take her on, to help her. And this question is not for really to decide, but it's to help her. And you're asking her, because once you say you're going to take her, it's very hard then afterwards to get into these deep discussions. So you keep it in that first bit of you're just still deciding. And you ask her, do you realize how important and how special and how the entire existence of mankind depends on you, your ability to give birth? Do you realize that? Maybe she doesn't realize how special she is because of that. You ask her, do you realize how special and important you are? That you represent kindness and love and empathy in this world. Do you realize that? And you have to go through things that are essential to a woman and see if because she's so brainwashed from society. She sees women cutting off parts of their body, cutting things out, going through operations, and all this craziness. She could forget how important and how special she is. And that's what you need to bring out to her. When it comes to a man, you need to tell him, you said, look, God gave you this ability, Hashem gave you this ability, that you're able to gain muscle in a quick way. A man works out a little bit, look at his muscles pop. A woman works out for hours, hardly anything happens. God gave you this testosterone, whatever the proper word is for that. And it makes that when you work out, your muscles grow. You protect the house, you protect the woman that you love, you protect your kids, you protect your community, you protect your city, your state, your country. Do you appreciate that? Do you see how important you are and the kindness that you bring to the world, that you could give them your family, your wife and your kids, that you could give them security. Do you appreciate that? And you go through each thing. And you need to say, do you appreciate that? Do you appreciate it? Do you appreciate the fact that there could be so many variables? And women can think up of a lot of variables, but they're not good at taking all the variables and coming to a conclusion. And you could come to a conclusion and help your spouse, your kids, your country. Do you appreciate that? That special ability that you have. Do you appreciate that? Do you see how you're special because of that? I'm going to go a step further. You know, hopefully at this point people learn to appreciate their mind and their heart, their intelligence and the emotions, not to think of them as second class. You say to a man, do you appreciate the fact that you want a beautiful woman? Do you appreciate that? Because today, the men, you know, the shatchanim, the matchmakers, they'll first send you with an ugly woman just to see if you'll take it. And they'll send you with another one, making you think that there are no pretty women that want to get married. You know, they'll leave them for last. And you know, when someone's very, very young, they could easily be tricked. Not all, but a lot of people could be tricked by that. And the matchmakers, and the righteous, you know, people that consider themselves righteous, they're so happy with themselves that they did that. Here, we'll give you $2,000, blah, 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 all these things, and they could be so happy with themselves. Now, of course, there are scenarios, we spoke about that. But to push this as a majority way of going about things, this is something that if the person is, then he is. But it's not something that you push out into the open because the majority of men, this is what they consider beautiful, and to ruin that is to ruin the man. Just as important as the intelligence is in a person, is his heart, is his emotions as well. And the same thing, of course, for a woman, even more so. A woman is the holiest of the holiest, the deepest of the deep. And when she only is able to connect to that when she has a loving man, you know, a truthful man, a loyal man, and vice versa. So you need to say to him, do you appreciate the fact that you want something beautiful? Majority of men, this is what means beautiful to them. Minority, something else can mean beautiful. You understand? But you say, do you appreciate that fact about you? And they're scared to even talk about it, because whenever they bring it up, the shatchanim get really angry. They'll just stop talking to them, or now they'll never send them someone that ever looks good. It's always mediocre or really bad. Just like a man has a responsibility to build himself up to be someone that a woman thinks that he's special, the same thing. A woman has to do what she needs to do, that she's to be special for a man. Not one thing, but many things. Just like a man has many things, a woman has many things. You need to do that. That's called that you really are looking to love someone, that you're going to take responsibility on your life. The man, he's going to start making good money. You know, he's a nice person, but he's broke. He's going to start making some money. And the woman, she's a nice person, but she's obese. She's going to start getting a nutritionist. She's going to spend the money to get a nutritionist and start losing weight. That shows that you really care about the other person. Now, for some people, it's so difficult. There's so much disarray that they need to find someone that's from the minority. Absolutely. And that person could be successful, doesn't, but that's not for the majority, and they need to realize that they can't force the majority to like them in the physical aspect of her being, if she's obese, to force them to like her that way. You understand? She needs to realize that if she feels that it's just too difficult, she can't, then she needs to find someone in the minority that's what they consider beautiful. Or they're open to both. You understand? She needs to realize that truth and stop thinking that men are evil because they want a woman that's skinny and beautiful. And therefore, as a real matchmaker, you need to make the man appreciate the fact that he wants someone that's beautiful. You understand? Bring that out to him. That the fact that he has a desire like that, he should not destroy that desire. Make believe that it's not the first thing on the list when it comes to emotions. He should appreciate that it is. And now when he marries a woman that is gorgeous to him, and she's kind and emotional and nurturing, do you think those people will ever get divorced? It will never happen. You could try to, there's no way to break it. There's no way. There's no way. And the same when it comes, of course, to a woman. We're not going to get into the women aspect because I really need to think about it. What's the first thing when it comes to each and how that plays out and everything. It's very, very deep, meaning we know many things, but to figure out what is the first thing, that's a bit difficult. I'm not a woman, so it's a bit difficult. Also want to talk about, as a Jews, right? You're not allowed to just, you could have something called a casual look. You're speaking to someone, so you're casually looking. But for a man to look at a woman for her beauty, especially if she's married, is forbidden. So when you're so now you bring up his importance. He should realize the importance, and he should not make believe that his number one thing of beauty when it comes to emotion, he should not make believe that it doesn't exist or it's 100 miles away. He should appreciate in and of itself that God created him, that's the number one thing. He should appreciate that. Now you want to figure out, is he from, so you could, since there's a majority, you could assume the majority. But let's say you have girls that are looking for a minority man. So now how do you go about it? Because you can't really show the man a picture of a girl, of a woman, because he's not supposed to be looking at women for no reason. And this is not considered a good reason. So how do you go about it? Is you take a sketch that doesn't, like a sketch from the side. You understand? A sketch of the side of a skinny woman, a skinny, the different levels. You could do regular, mediocre, huge. You understand? Respectfully, huge. And you can say, what are you attracted to? So it's just like, it's a sketch. It's like this, but it's you're not putting in all the ink and all. It's just like a like a pencil sketch of 3, and you say, what do you find? So there's no really face being shown. You're just looking at the weight aspect. You understand? Now, of course, a girl could be skinny and she could be Down syndrome. A girl could be skinny and her skin, there could be something, God forbid, wrong with her skin. Absolutely. But that's the first thing that you're looking at, is the weight. Because obviously, if the person's normal, not to give them someone that's Down syndrome. And if a person's normal, obviously that if a girl, God forbid, has a skin problem, that he doesn't want that. You understand? Those are obviouses. So you just have to figure out what he's attracted to. You show him those 3, and you say, are you attracted? What are you attracted to? And maybe he'll pick, the normal, and someone that's in the middle. Maybe he'll pick the huge, and just that. You understand? You could say like that, and then you go forward from there. So powerful what we're talking about, and at the end of the day, the truth will set you free. At the end of the day, now this is, I know the Christians have this saying, but it's also in the Lush, which came before them in the sayings of our sages, right? It says that if you look at the Aleph base, right, the first letter of the Aleph base is Aleph, the middle is Mem, the last is a Saf. What does it spell out? MS. MS. Truth is the foundation of a person having a good life, of a good society, of a good country. And if a person is just trying to hide the truth, make people believe that false is truth and truth is false, that's the depredation, that is the destruction of a society. And in a marriage, focusing on the truths, that's what will make the marriage that'll never break. And God forbid, when a person is wishy-washy, or even worse, is fighting against the truth when it comes to marriage, the way a man is, the way a woman is, that's when we see, God forbid, like what we see today, so many divorces and so many unhappy marriages. Kids going off the derech, the parents have, there's no rhythm there. It's all chaos. Hopefully with us taking the truth, MS, truth, we should have so much love in our lives, so much success. Everything should just get better and better. I love you and Hashem loves you more.